Hello, guys. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Live Talk Pub with Bami. I want to especially thank each and every one of you that subscribe, watch, and share our content. We really appreciate each and every one of you that does that for us. We come to you weekly to bring amazing content that can influence and change your lives. And we hope that today's topic would be of benefit to someone out there. Today with me I have two wonderful people. Someone else will join us while in the course of the topic. These are people that have really impacted my life in one way or the other, and I felt it, that you guys should hear from them and learn from them and their own experiences also. Davoni, you can introduce yourself then from there. Wale, you can take it up from there.
Hi, Ayu.
Thank you. Hi.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dalvini Savage. I know Ayu through. I'm not supposed to say Ayu, right? I'm so edgy.
No, I
Uh,
hear.
yeah. I was your lecturer, and I am lecturer at the university, senior lecturer at the University of West London. I used to be a course leader. I'm originally from Brazil and have been living in London for over 20 years. It's just a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wale.
Okay, so it's good to have everyone here, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Ajo Maliwali. Also, I'm a business development consultant. I'm into ICT consulting also, and I met Ayo some couple of years ago, which we worked together, and he has been a very wonderful person. So can you hear me? All right, so he has been a wonderful person. So it's good to be here again today to discuss on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody's all of a sudden telling me they met me from. I don't want. I don't want my audience to know where they met me from, but it's fine. Thank you. I'm so happy that you guys are here. Honestly, I'm really, really excited. So the topic we want to look at today is embracing failure, turning mess ups into growth, and I'm sure they also share some funny stories about things that they've gone through. One thing that people don't like to hear in this day and age is failure. I think everybody is always like skimmish about talking about the failures that they've encountered or talking about roadblocks that they've been up to. The concept is not to denigrate anybody, it's to uplift yourself and to learn from the mistakes and experiences of what you did wrong that amounted to that failure. And I'm sure that with Davoni and Wale here, and even myself, because I know I want to give leeway for them to to talk and share their experiences. I'm sure that yes, you know the audience will be able to take one or two lessons that they can learn from how far they've come, and to how far they want to go to in life. So Davoni, the segment I want to go into first of all is the failure factor. That's what I named it, the failure factor, psychology and reframing. So let's start with the emotional side of failure. Why do you think failure stings so much? And how much of that is tied to societal pressures or expectations?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you properly. Would you repeat that?
Oh, sorry, I said, why do you think failure stings so much? Like, why does it affect people so much? And of that, how much of it is tied to societal pressures or expectations from people and society?
Well, the concept of failure, I think it's the biggest issue, how people actually understand what failure is. Using the word failure has a big impact on people's mind and ability to process the feeling of getting something, not getting something in the way that was planned to. And where the big issue starts. It's the people that they look at someone who has not been able to achieve what was meant to, and instead of looking into that as an opportunity to grow, they look at it as a disaster. And of course, the society has a big impact on that because we care very much about what others think, unfortunately. And it takes a long time. It takes maturity to understand that it's not really about that. It's about the ability to look at the situation and try to understand, how can I make, it's just like making a lemonade out of a lemon.
Oh, you done. Thank you. Thank you. I was so excited. I thought maybe you're going to say some more, but thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so Mr. Wale. I don't know. I call him Mr. Wale, but it's already in my mouth, so I'm sorry. Like, it's the kind of it's too much respect I give to you. So, from your perspective, why is failure so much tied to societal pressure and expectation, most especially in our country of Nigeria?
Okay. Thank you for that. So, the question is, why is failure so much tied to societal pressure, especially our country, Nigeria?
Yeah.
So, I think I'll pick from it from the, okay, I had a little experience in sociology where you define a family as a group of people, your father, the mother, and all. So I think failure, the definition of failure or the act of failure started from that area. We could remember even when we watch comedies online, we know when children are trying to walk or when they are crawling and trying to walk, there's
Mm,
a way the parents encourage them. There's a way the child is trying to stand up, and then if he falls back, there's a way the parents react and encourage that child. Then we tend to start to, the children or as a child, start to read body language to either see it as a good or bad, or right or wrong. So the definition of or the understanding of failure then starts from that aspect. That's why
mm,
in primary school, then like in Nigeria, we have the primary, the secondary school. When you come home with your results, the parents are always expecting you to come first. And then there's a general saying in Nigeria is if you don't come first, then your parents will be, who what about the person that took first? How why is he better than you? Then the child is now constrained to see failure as a bad thing, which the parents don't want. And then he
yeah.
feels the only way for him to succeed is for him to either take first or second. Even coming second is not even accepted because they will say, what about the person that took first? How is he better than you? So I think that's where the concept of
Mm,
failure tends to affect us as children. And then we start growing up with that notion of failure is either I get it or I do not. Then we ignore the process
mm.
of getting it, only want to get the result. So I think that's why the failure has a lot of impact in our lives
Th-
because
oh,
from our family
thank you so
stage,
much.
it's already there.
So
Thank you.
I wanted okay, I think so. Davoni, I wanted to talk about, like, if you can share specific moments in your life, or in your
Yeah. Okay.
in your,
Yeah.
no, like, where you shifted your mindset from I failed to I learned from that failure. So what did that process look like to you?
Yeah, I'm gonna share a personal experience I have.
Okay, Wale has
Uh, if you ask me
My
a few
network
years
or
ago,
their own network.
what is your biggest failure? And I would definitely say to you, my biggest failure, I would not hesitate at all to say my biggest failure was my marriage. Yeah. And why do I think it was my marriage, the biggest failure of my life? Because in my culture, it's very family oriented. Not anymore, but in my house, we had our own little culture growing up in a church. Getting married was part of the development, and I was looked into getting married. And I was in my early 20s, and I was still very young, and I was already trying to look for someone to get married. And then it didn't work. It was really hard. When I came to London, I met this person, and because of my desperation of fulfilling the dreams of my family and following the process that is considered what is right, and then, well, I need to get married. And it was a failure. It was a disaster. It didn't work out. There was a lot of issues. There was issues related to cultural differences. We met in London. He's not from England. I'm from Brazil. We've got our strong beliefs in certain things, counting with the language differences as well, the language barrier. And it was such a difficult period of my life when I decided this is not going to work. I have to either make this work somehow, or I have to get out of this situation. And there was a lot of issues regarding to culture, for example. However, these failures, to me, it became the failures that we were having on a day-to-day life and trying to make things right in our relationship. I was always, of course, blaming him. But then this failure became more of a mirror in that is what I think it was my growth moment, when I realized, well, it's not only him that has issues. To me, he was being difficult. He's the one that didn't understand. But then I started to think that, well, this is the Brazilian me meeting this British Serbian guy. And we are both stubborn, but the only difference is we are stubborn in different languages. And well, how is this gonna end? And then I realized, well, I've got to take responsibility here as well. Of course, I do have my complaints about him. He's got complaints about me. But I decided, well, we got to get divorced, accept that this happens. I'm not the only person. It was a failure, but there's so much I can do about it. I can make my life better. And then when I became a lecturer, I have always used him as an example. When I want to explain something, I use a parallel. And you, as my student, you remember well how much I use my ex-husband as an example of whenever
Yeah.
something is wrong, I'm just like, yeah, just like my ex-husband. So he became learning material to me. So instead of looking back and think, oh my God, it was so terrible. It was a horrible relationship. And it was a abusive relationship. But when I look back, I decided I'm not going to make this negative. I'm going to turn this into something very positive, something that I can laugh about it. I can make people laugh about it. So now, when I'm teaching marketing strategies, and I'm talking about the importance of branding and how much money some people spend on branding when they're actually paying for the same product. I always use my ex-husband. I say, like, my ex-husband is one of those people. He spent hell a lot of money. So don't be fool as my ex-husband. And so I have used him so much. He became my teacher assistant. He is
Yeah.
my teacher assistant. The only thing is he's on the page and he's not even aware that he's actually working for me. So I have used so many parallels to bring him into my classroom and create that environment where my students feel like it's okay to have a laugh. It's okay to joke a little bit. You have to be serious when you are tasked with an assignment, when you are tasked with anything life. But you also have to take a little bit into the humor side, make that a little bit of a comedy.
Yeah. I really I think one thing I took away from your classes there was like, oh, is she going to mention? I'm sure she's going to mention her husband today, one way or the other. Me and my friends, like, always joking about it. Like, okay, I'm sure she's going to mention. She's going to like find a way to bring him into the mix of the topic.
Yeah, I always find a way.
Yeah,
and, and talking about culture is amazing because we've come from such a different culture, and that's
yeah,
my area of expertise. So I talk about culture, so I can embed all these horrible situations into my teaching with humor, making it funny, and the
yeah.
students love it because they relax a little bit, isn't it? Well, we can talk about how the students feel much more than I can.
Yeah, I know. Thank you so much, Alvin. That was really lovely. Wale, so I wanted to move on from there because that one is so she gave us that last take was so much educative. I wanted to know the idea of growth mindset and how powerful can it be. It's not always easy to adapt, or to adopt, practical steps that you can follow when embracing failure and when wanting to move on to other things. So I wanted to portray to my listeners what they can take and how they can start seeing failure as a catalyst rather than a dead end. Oh, Toby, welcome, welcome. Are you
Welcome. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me,
so,
but I
Mr. Wale?
think
You can answer
something
the
is wrong with
question,
my.
Okay.
please.
So
What practical
I think
list?
the first thing is to really understand or how one interprets what failure actually is. Failure could actually
Mm,
interpret it as a learning process or as a determining factor to achieve a certain goal or a set goal. Failure is practically
mm-hmm,
universal, whether we like it or not. Everybody tends to experience failure in one way or the other, either in family line, personal life, career, or in everything we're doing in business line. So, how we respond or interpret failure is actually a very important thing. So, are we seeing failure as a necessary step in learning, or we can actually interpret it as a feedback? Which provides us like valuable information. So if I failed at something, I should be able to see it as a learning process or as a feedback for me to do better. So when someone wants to go through a learning process or use failure as an advantage, they need to first of all have a clear interpretation of it. No, I think from interpreting it to in what way or the other, that's what would definitely help. So even if you are listening to people talk online or any motivational speaker talking about how you can turn your failure into success, it comes from your own mindset. What is your view about that failure? How do you interpret it? Are you interpreting it based on your own personal understanding
mm,
or based on societal definition of what failure is? So I think that's one major thing that
mm,
people need to work towards. How you interpret it is very important.
yeah, yeah. So much. So I said we want to. I wanted to go through segment by segment by segment. So we are done with the first segment, which is the failure factor, psychology, and the framing. So I want to move to what I called laughing through the letdowns, funny failure tales. You know, although that only took us ahead.
Oh yeah. Oh sorry. Yeah, I think I covered both
Yeah, that only
sections. I'm so sorry.
took us
Yeah, I
ahead
covered
of the
it.
whole thing. So I wanted to say, okay, if you can share a funny story of an epic fail, maybe a dating disaster, you see, a cooking catastrophe, a public flop. What made you laugh about it in the hindsight? These are things that generally you will laugh about. Funny, funny enough. And I want to start with myself. In Nigeria, before you get to the university, you have to take like an external exam. I'm trying to explain to Davoni, an external exam. They call it JAM. That's the external exam you have to take. So you don't know who is marking your scripts, you don't know who is marking your papers. You just have to take it and you have to get like a minimum cut-off mark of 200 out of 400, you know. So you have to write the exam for the university you want to go to. So I think I wrote the first one when I was in the last year of my secondary school. The second time I wrote the jam, I was so prepared and I was like reading. I was going to go to school this year, write jam this year, and it was going to be I was so prepared. I went for the classes and everything, and I went for the exam. I was so confident that yes, I'll pass the exam because I think that was the first day they started the computer based test, but I didn't pick computer based test. I had to do the paper. So fast forward, the result came out, and it was an epic fail. Oh my god! I think I got a 186 because I already bragged to my dad and my mom that I'm gonna pass this, I'm gonna blast it. I did so well. I was like over. And when the result came out and I failed, I was like I was sick, and it was so funny because it was not funny then, but in retrospect now you laugh. And I was telling my dad I wanted to sue.
You're going to sue them because you failed.
Yeah, I said I wanted to sue the examining body. I wanted to sue the government. I don't wanted to. I don't wanted to sue some people, and up to now, my mom still jokes about that. Like, I think if you're seeing them, we'll still be seeing them till now. You won't go to school. It's also funny, like in retrospect, when you look at it that way, and it took a lot for me to move on. It took a lot of encouragement, a lot of saying you can do this, you can do that, and you know it was actually the support of my family that made everything work out, honestly, because I would have, I don't want to say gone crazy, because I was so confident in that paper, in that exam, that I knew, and I said once, I said, even if they take it to the moon to mark, I'm going to pass this exam. And I feel so, in an epic fashion, and it was not funny. But when I think about it now, it was like a learning process for me. I think that was the first big moment of failure in my life that I really experienced, and I didn't know how to deal with it. That's why I said I was going to sue and sue this. So I didn't know how to deal with it then. I didn't know. I was just a young kid. I was 17. I didn't know how to deal with it then, and it was like, um, that was that. So Toby, can you hear us?
I, yes, I can hear you. Hope you can hear me as well.
Toby, there.
Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Toby, can you hear us?
I can actually hear you, but I think something is just up
Oh
with the
no.
network here.
So who wants to share a story again? I think
Can you hear
Wally,
me
would you like
now?
to share something?
Hello?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I would like to share something. So, just adding to what
Yeah.
you talked about, the whole school system. Then mine was quite totally different. It was still in line with the jam, but I could remember very well the year I finished my secondary school. It took me approximately 4 years before I could get admission into the university. So, why it was so funny was the fact that where my family house was very close to the University of Ilorin then.
Mm,
So like three of my friends that were finished from secondary school had to come stay in my family house to go to school. The first year they got admission, I did not. They were staying in my house. Where woke up in the morning, they would dress or pick their books, go to school. I was at home. The same thing the following year, and I don't understand the whole issue of how to get admission in Nigeria. So it took me like 4 years. The following year, the third year, it got to a point I knew everything that was happening in the university, and I was not a student. So fast forward, like you said, by the time I got admission and I had my classmates then, I already knew what the school system was. I knew everything. So it was so interesting for me that when someone says something, I will
mm,
tell you like, "Hey, I am not your mate. I already knew this. I knew that." But in that process, the failure or
yeah.
the delay
Yeah.
I had was now an experience for me. Just today, I could just sit down and tell someone like, you know how many years it took me? It took so many years not to get admission. So I have so many experience. So it wasn't a very easy period of 4 years, but it was interesting with the fact that my friends would come back home, they would gist about the whole process of school, and then I would sit down in my own corner and start fantasizing and thinking about what if I had been in school with them? I would have experienced this, I would have experienced that. So there was a whole lot of experience of failure, but at the end of the day, it turned out to be a learning process or a grooming process for me. So
No,
I think
thank
that's
you.
what I would
Thank
like
you.
to share within
Toby,
that
are you
area.
there?
Hi, I'm here. I hope you can actually hear me this time because I've moved
Yeah, we can,
locations and
but we can't
everything. That's why
see
I
you. But
turned off my video.
yeah, we
Is
can
it
hear you, but
better
we
here?
can't see you. But don't worry.
Yeah, I
We
turned
can
off my
continue.
video.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe that'll be better.
Okay.
How are you?
All right. I'm fine. I'm fine. Hi,
So
everyone. So
sorry.
sorry for the delay.
Uh,
Yeah, I think
we'll try to
something
make.
is up with the network today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've asked
Yes.
Dabuni, Wale about things that can lighten up our epic fails. Maybe you want to share something
Mm.
about that line before we move on.
Well, yeah, actually, when I was listening to Wale talk, the story that came to my mind actually, although it happened a long time ago, was in secondary school. I don't know if you know the story or if you can remember anything of it. When we were after
Hold
GS3, of
on, hold
course,
on,
we're
hold on.
to go
Sorry,
to.
Toby.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I wanted to just say something. I and Toby went to the same secondary school, by the way, so that's why she's saying in case maybe I don't know about the story, but I just wanted my
Okay.
audience to know that yes, we went to the same secondary school together.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I don't know the story. Maybe I can contribute to the story maybe down the line, but let's
Yeah,
hear
maybe if I
the
say it,
story.
you probably just remember. So after
Yeah.
GS3, right, we're supposed to pick classes. We're
Oh,
supposed to pick either science, arts, or commercial. I think you're trying to
yeah.
understand what I was saying now. Yes, so and
Yeah.
for some reason
It's,
I picked science class, and I don't know why at the time, but there was just something that just told me science class was it for me. And I went to science class for my first term. I just realized I was struggling a lot. It was a struggle to pass core science subjects, like a real struggle. I'm not joking. I have to read 3, 4 times before I can understand chemistry. And I don't like reading that much. I'm not so much of a reading type. And I realized I was just struggling. And at the end of the term, I knew I had to just move. It's either I move or I risk failing all through my years in my senior secondary school. Either I
hello,
fail or I'm
Toby.
struggling to pass. Can you hear me now? I think my network
Yeah,
is
yeah,
going
yeah,
off
yeah,
and
yeah.
on.
Yeah, yeah, we can
Okay,
hear
yes.
you.
So all right. So I was saying that I knew I had to move. Is it that I moved to another arm or I would have risked struggling all through my years in senior secondary school. Struggling because I didn't want to fail my core subjects in like my final exams, and at the same time it wasn't easy for me to understand them and remember them. I will read chemistry twice, maybe in one night, and if you ask me the next morning, it's gone. I've forgotten everything. Tests would come, I will
Mm,
not have a good score. I mean, by the time exams came, it wasn't so great. And I just had to speak to the teacher in charge at that time. And they said, fine, no problem. You want to switch. Where do you want to switch to? I said, arts class. And it was like, really? Not even commercial? I said, no, I want to go to arts class. And then I made the switch. I remember when I got home that day and I told my mom I was switching to art class. She was like, oh, finally, about time. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, she didn't know what I was looking for in science class in the first place. That you're not a science person. I mean, she saw me growing up and she knows that I'm an arts person. I would write stories, I would do all of those things that were arts related. And then I came and said I wanted to go to science class. She was confused, but she was like, you know what? Go and see it for yourself. If you succeed with it, fine. But if you fail, I hope you can like just make the correction before it's too late.
mm.
And then I moved to art class. It was not easy. Although it was art, you would expect it to be easier, but it wasn't. Because
No, it
people were
wasn't.
not so yeah, it wasn't. People were not so welcoming. Apart from the fact that I had to struggle with like the change of subjects, the major subjects were not what I was used to. People were referring to what they had taught them in the first term, in the second term, and I could not relate because I was not there in second term. So I had 2 terms to catch up on. And then at the same time,
Mm.
people were not welcoming. Not just my classmates alone. You would think my classmates would be the only ones to have issues, but apparently other people from other classes had issues with it. Why, I still don't understand. But it wasn't easy. So it was a period where I had to face it. You made a mistake, you failed at it, pick yourself up and just get it done. And the surprising thing is
Mm.
that in that second term, I picked up, and I think, till I graduated, maybe only once. I was always part of top three in that class. And it was like, finally, imagine if I was too ashamed or I was too scared to say, you know what, yes, I tried my hand at something and it failed. And I didn't
Mm.
pivot quickly.
Ah,
I would have gone down the wrong path. Honestly, I think
yeah,
I remember a conversation I had with the literature teacher at the end because when my results came out second term and I saw my literature script. Normally, in English, they'll say you can't have a perfect score, especially in theory. And then I saw my exam
yeah,
paper,
yeah,
and yeah, and in literature, I had a perfect score. He gave me 40 over 40. I said, this has to be a mistake. I took it back. I said, it has to be a mistake. Something is going on here. I can't have a perfect score in literature. And they said, you know what? It's literature. Nobody's checking your English terms and your punctuation marks. It's not English, it's literature in English. So they don't really care. They just wanted to see how well you could understand, the subject. And the man said, the fact that you were able to understand this in just a short period of time, even those that have been doing it 3, 4 months before you, you were still able to understand and break it down. That's all they needed. And that just gave me the confirmation I needed that, you know what, I'm in the right place now and I'm doing the right thing. So I think from
Yeah,
that moment forward up until now, I'm never too scared to say, you know what, yeah, I made a mistake. I failed at this. I pick myself up immediately. I've it has translated even on the job. I've had a project where I planned that the project was supposed to be for 6 months. It was supposed to be a bottled water project that I was doing for a retail firm at the time. I was supposed to, from start to finish, launch product development and then marketing launch. I said, you know what? They told me, do your project plan, everything. I said, 6 months, I'm going to be doing. It's not just bottled water. It's not a big deal. And then I got into it and then
mm,
I realized it was a big deal. I had to do series of lab tests. I have to do a lot of, contracts and all of that. And 6 months down the line, I had not found a manufacturer because every single one I'd found were violating, NAFTA regulations. And it was just like, okay, yeah, we tried our hands and then we failed at it because at that time we had spent lots of money, we had wasted resources, and this is a job. I mean, I've been given a project I could not deliver in the timeline I'd given. But like I said earlier on, I'd realized that the best thing to do when you fail is realize it and admit it that, you know what, I failed at this, I made a mistake, and then just reflect, where did I go wrong? What happened? How did I feel? Did something, was it my doing? Was it something I had no control over? Do I need to change lanes? Do I need to maybe stay in the same lane but try it in another way? Because I mean, you can't keep trying something the exact same way and expect different results at the end of the day. So doing
yeah.
that and then just picking yourself back up and trying your hands at it again is the best thing to do.
Thank you so much. That was really, really. It's just painful that I can't see your face.
Yes.
Let me try to put it back on. Hopefully it won't get the network off again.
No, no, if it's going to be better than this, I think we'll just have to, yeah, you see,
Okay.
To add a little more to what Toby said, then in secondary school, once you're in science
Mm,
class, you're
oh, yeah,
seen as the most smartest. Commercial and arts are seen
exactly.
uh,
as people behind all the
the only person
failures.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
if you
think
guys can
you want
relate
to
to
explain to
that.
Davoni, probably you can explain to her. She maybe she does not relate to to our struggles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so at the time, science class students were like perceived to be the smartest, while
Yeah,
commercial were like the next of the bunch. Art class were seemed to they were perceived to be like the dumb of the bunch, the dumber people. Like you were not smart, you don't have the brains to carry science class, that's why you're going to art class. So that's how it's been
and
perceived. So if you're going
that was
to art class,
a very wrong concept because
exactly,
I
it was a
I
very wrong
it
concept.
was a very wrong concept because I think I can relate to Toby's story because we're the same class, not art class. Like I think
When same
before you
set,
enter
same year.
before they like you go to the senior secondary, like the senior class, there's I think the school makes provision for you to come for 2 months before the school resumes to try and see where you fit in. You can go to the science class. So like they write this exam at the end of the 2 months to know exactly what your strengths are. And the same thing with Toby. I too went through what she went through. I couldn't like read this big chemistry textbook they gave to me. I was into proficient in physics. I hated mathematics at the time. And it was just like, what am I doing? What am I doing with? What is this? So I didn't tell my dad. I didn't tell my dad or my mom that I was leaving. Right? Unlike her, that she went home to tell them. I didn't tell them that I was leaving. I just left. I just left. But the thing about me that was that my subject combinations at the time were just bizarre and weird. I was taking food and nutrition. I was taking
Mm.
so when I passed so well. So when I got home and my dad was seeing my results, he said, "Wait, I thought you were in." So that one, he didn't really get angry. Then I said,
Mhm.
"What exactly is food and nutrition? What are they teaching you how to cook or what?" So he said, "You want to be a chef? You want to be a professional chef?" I said, "What? So why are you taking food and nutrition? What are you doing?" So And one thing I'm always grateful for is that I said that one thing I'm always grateful for is their support, their advice, both my mom and my dad. And we sat down, and I think they looked at my results from just one to just three, and they found out that, yeah, you're proficient in business and in business studies, you're proficient in this. Why are you going to take accounts and see financial accounting and see how it is? Just take it. If you don't like it, you can, come back to find a better way. So I had to talk to the school authorities. So like they had to make provisions for, because commercial class was too full then. So they had to make provisions for the timetable that whenever they're having financial accounting, the art class were not having anything that time. So I had to just take my chair and go to the commercial class and, have my accounting class. And at the end of the term, I passed so well that, okay, now you can move in. But one thing I'm so grateful for my parents is that they said, I think that was the first time it really dawned on me that you can combine the art and commercial together. So the subjects I took the literature, she took it. I took the English language. I took Christian religious knowledge. That something that could make me have a career both in law and accounting if I wanted to. So I could actually be a lawyer or an accountant. It was like easy picking. So when I was writing my WAHEC, I passed all my subjects, and so the debate after then was, do you want to go study accounting in school or you want to study law? They said study law, study law. I said no, 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 no. I don't want to. I don't want to. I want to study business. And I wasn't still proficient in mathematics then, but so the only thing I had to do was to improve my mathematics and statistics, and I had to just and it was fine by me to stay here, learn about the mathematics, brush up on my statistics before I went to university, and it was so so good. I said that why I said I'm so grateful for my mom and my dad for actually advising me on that. If not, I would have been lost. You know, I would have been lost. So I think three of us were the ones that just actually combined the art and commercial classes together, because we had leeway to pick between any of the career paths we wanted to go through, and it was really wonderful. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate the contributions. So like before we leave this segment or this aspect, this is an open question to three of you. Umo humor seems to have these magical healing powers when it comes to failure, especially now that we're laughing about it. I'm sure then it was not it was not a laughing matter. It was not a laughing matter in Dabo's relationship. It was not a laughing matter in Toby's, and while it was not a laughing matter then, because then it felt like, okay, the world was coming to an end. It felt like, you were alone in this mess and you could not think of a way out. So I wanted to just know why we think laughing at our mess ups now, or at our failures now, helps us move forward. Any tips?
Hmm.
You know, why any tips for finding funny things in the moment? How does it help us, move forward? Does it help us? I'm sure we have all healed from whatever happened. You know, I'm sure. I don't know about you guys, but I'm true. I'm done with it. I've experienced so much, you know,
Yeah.
setbacks that I feel like it made me stronger as a man. It made me much more stronger mentally to be able to, you know, accept some things that were not necessarily beyond my control, but like, it is what it is. I know that yes, in life I'm not a failure, but at a point in your life you're failed in one way or the other. It's either you move forward or you decide to let it break you down. I think the things that, and the funny thing about this whole thing is the thing that we've gone through. Some people have gone through that, and they committed suicide or they killed themselves because they couldn't handle the pressure, of going through that situation. So I commend all of us on this panel that, yeah, you guys went through what you went through and you came out stronger. So I just wanted to know if um we think laughing at these stories now helps us, move forward. If not, we can just, Davoni,
I think,
anything? Okay, Toby, you want to talk? Okay, Toby,
yeah, so
Toby.
I think the first thing is acceptance, right? That's what helps you move forward, basically. Just
Mm.
accept it. It has happened. It has happened. What's the next step? What, how do you get out of it? And now it's easy
Yeah.
for us to laugh about it because we were able to find a way out of it. Because imagine if, for example, I didn't find a way out of it and I was still stuck with sciences. I'll probably be in a career I do not like because if I'm being honest, I don't like sciences. I'll probably be stuck with a career I don't like, and it won't be funny
Mm.
because when someone brings it up and say, or maybe anything about my career or anything about what I'm doing, I would feel bad about it because I know I'm not happy with what I'm doing. So it's
Yeah.
easy to laugh about it now because we're able to move forward from it. And even with mistakes or errors or failures that, let's say we've accepted it, but we've not still found maybe a solution or something, but we've still accepted it.
Mm.
We can laugh about it because,
Mm.
like I said, you've accepted the situation. So even if you're
Mm.
still in the midst of trying to solve it, the fact that you've sorted it out within yourself, you're not putting the blame on yourself necessarily, you're not putting the blame on someone. Because it's easy to say, oh, it's not your fault, it's someone else's fault. You've still not moved on from it, you've still not accepted the situation, you're still trying to, pick and choose who to blame. But once you accept the situation, I think that's the first step to everything. That's the first step to moving forward. As the first step to finding a solution to it. So I think acceptance is what really helps us to be able to laugh about it now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Um, does anybody else have any contribution before we move forward?
Yeah, just want to come in very quickly because I think Toby has mentioned some interesting points. Accepting, and then later on understanding that, well, that was not the best for me. I just reminded that before I came to London, I studied really hard to get into the police force, the federal police. In order to get to the federal police in Brazil, you would have to go through a number of tests, exams. So sometimes you have to study 1 year just in preparation for those exams and tests, and also you have to go through the physical test as well. And I prepared myself for 1 year, and then when I did the test, I was just like you, overconfident. I was just relating to the story as well. I was like, oh, this is going to be super easy. And then when I got the results, the competition was so high, I didn't pass. And then I felt so bad about it. And then later on, I was like, well, I don't think I really accepted it. Accepting is the key, but I was so disappointed, as Toby was saying. But I was so disappointed because I was so confident. But then I changed my plans. I decided to come to London, and now, when I look back, I am so grateful that that didn't work. Because if I passed that, the job is so good that I would be in Brazil today,
Yeah,
and
I have one.
yeah, I wouldn't have met you, and I wouldn't be doing what I love the most, which is teaching. I absolutely love my job. And I'm just like, well, all the things work together for the good. And that's exactly what happened. And then I realized, not only accepted, but I became so grateful that didn't it was not a failure, actually. And I find it very hard to talk about failure. Yeah, find it hard to talk about failures because my brain is conditioned not to look into things as a failure. I try to look, and you know me well, I have always preached that in class. This is meant to be. Take whatever good you can take from this situation and move on. So I do look at things, that's how my brain is conditioned, programmed now. Look at things in the best way possible and see what you can take from here. Yeah, and move on, as Toby said.
Thank you so much. You want to add something?
Okay, so I think in relation to that, that's true. Like what Toby said, acceptance is very important because I could remember December period, at least we know we all traveled to meet with the family. Then we're having discussion with my sisters and all. Then we reflected back on the funny things most of us has done in area of relationship when we were younger. We had to start bringing up the story of when my sister would steal food, steal meat to give to a boyfriend outside. So it was so funny. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we now discovered it was all a learning process. Her husband was actually there, and the husband was like, "Oh, so you had done all this for one guy, and you refuse to give me meat in the house. When I ask for meat, you won't. You tell me no. It's almost." It became a very funny experience, but as at then, it was as if she was doing something good, but then it was now a learning process. That everybody now saw it like, hey, this is how it is. And we were even asking her, so where's the boyfriend now? It's like, that one, forget about him. It was a good experience because she was now happy that, okay,
Yeah,
who she ended up with was the best for her. So that's just how life is. So
yeah.
acceptance and
Yeah.
then seeing it as a
Thank you so
learning
much. So
process is
to my
very important.
audience,
Thank you.
I think everything that we agree on here is acceptance. Like Toby really said that word. I think that word meant everything. Accept your faults, move on, do better. You can do it. So why not? We've all gone through something. We've all gone through the wilderness before, but I think the fact that we know that there's a promised land ahead is what makes us, more resilient in our attitude and how we, attack issues in our lives. So thank you guys so much. So the next segment we're going to look into now is what I called failure across the spectrum and the lessons within. Um, so failure shows up in many areas of our lives. It can show up in your career, in your relationship, personal goals. I wanted to know. I wanted to know if we can share a career stumble, like a job rejection or a project flop, and a key lesson it taught you. I think I don't know. I think Toby shared one the last segment. So I want to go to Davoni. I like hearing from Davoni.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I definitely have one, a big one, and I I started working in the education system as in the department of student support, in which I would be supporting students to write their assignments, guide them in terms of because we've got lots of international students, and some of them wouldn't be able to express themselves in English. So I was in that department, in writing, in that department to support students. And I was happy thinking that I was doing a great job. And one day I was called in, but I have always been worried about the experience, not in terms of worrying in a negative way, but I was thinking that it's very important that I provide the best service so the students can have a good experience. And to me, it was a question of honor that all the students were satisfied. And sometimes I would do things that the management would be not so happy in order to support the students.
Mhm.
And then one day, all of a sudden, they called me in the office and they said, we are not happy with you. We don't want you anymore. Just like that. And everything was going well. To my view, I had a great feedback from the students, and my students they do enjoy my classes. They do enjoy my way of teaching, and all of a sudden, I didn't have a job, and I left the premises of that institution crying like a baby because that came out of blue, and I couldn't do anything about it. But that was like almost 10 years ago, and then I just decided, well, I'm going to have to make the best of what I have now. I still have experience with students. And then I got into teaching. Yeah, I got into a really nice place where I could see that my vision, it was more in line with the organization that I was at that time. Everything was fine. Then I worked there for like almost 3 years. And then I moved to University of West London, where I am now. I have been at University of West London for 5 years, and it has been amazing. I have grown so much. I was the course leader when you were studying there. I developed the course myself. I was the head of the development. Of course, I had the help of the the experts, but I was the one leading the design of that course, the International Business Management course, the
Yeah.
one that you have studied. And you know what happened later? I got an invitation, because sometimes you do get invitations to go and deliver speak guest as a guest speaker, and I got an invitation from that organization that they said to me I was not good enough, and now they wanted me. They said, well, you are such an inspiration. We want our students to be like you. And I got invited, and I was just recently, and I went there, I delivered a speech. They received me with open arms, and They talked about how wonderful my trajectory has been, and they would really appreciate if I was there. At the beginning, they have invited me a few times, and at the beginning, I was holding those grudges against them. My human side was like, "No, why am I going back there? You told me that wasn't good enough." And then later on, just let it go, all the bad feelings. And I went there, I delivered a talk to the students. I had over 100 students in the audience. And I think that was amazing. I think it was a good comeback.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's talk relationships. Have you had a breakup or friendship hiccup, that felt like failure at the time, but led you to, unexpected growth? How did you process that?
I'll let someone else talk now.
Oh, you don't want to,
I've been
Okay.
talking too much.
Okay. Ali, do you want to talk about that? You want to talk about it? Because as
Okay, so
no, I want to go to you.
sorry,
I want to go to you.
huh?
Whether you want to talk about that? Yeah,
Okay, so talking about
maybe you've
failure
had
in
a breakup,
relationship.
that felt like a failure at the time. Maybe you felt like this relationship was moving in this trajectory, and unexpectedly everything just turned over its edge. How did you process that? Did you, were you crying and eating ice cream in your bed?
Sorry. That guy's so funny.
Okay, so I think I would use the experience after my university years. Like you mentioned the other time, after finishing our degree courses, we were posted to different places in Nigeria to serve for
Mm,
1 year. So I could remember that period. I was dating, we had a relationship in my university days. So by the time we were going for
yeah.
NYSC, it's called NYSC, National Youth Service Corps. By the time we were going for that, I was posted to the northern part. She was posted to Kogi State precisely. I was posted to Zamfara. She was posted to Kogi State. So the whole thing came up and then I decided on, hey, Zamfara is not a bad place actually. I could speak the language, I could relate here, and I saw some potentials and opportunity in the state. So I decided after my service here, I was staying back. Then she brought up the idea of no, it's either I move back because she can't move to the north. It's either I move back to where she is or move back to the west. Anything other than that, then we had to let go of the relationship. And this had been a
Mm,
relationship that we had built for over almost 3 years. So the whole thing had to go down. It wasn't actually easy because I felt like, why would you feel because I wanted to stay somewhere to develop myself, and then you're not using that as an excuse to say you can't do that? And the interesting part or the funny part is she was now telling me if I come back, her brother could help me get a job at a call center with MTN. So I was not like, no, I am more cut off for that. This is not my focus or my plan. The relationship took a toll on me for weeks, almost a month. I was just there, just thinking about like, why is it that I'm taking a wrong decision or I'm taking a wrong step? Why is it like this? And then it affected some of my activities then. But later on, I had to just sit myself down and look at it like, hey, this is your own personal decision. Whoever wants to flow, go with you, definitely has to understand this is your own point of view and see how things are. And then the interesting part is within that period, and I met with someone that was even having a the man, the ladies in Nigeria, the husband or the husband as at then was not even in the country. He was out, and their relationship was going good with 2 kids. And I now looked at it like, if people that are not even in the same country could make it work, what about us that were in the same country? And then you're telling me this. So I think I cried over that, but it wasn't like the whole sitting on bed with ice cream. No, I didn't do that. It was more or less like just have that sadness in me, but I just overlooked it. And I guess today has it turned out to be a very good story. We still talk. She's married, she's happily married and doing good. Everybody's doing fine. But I was happy I did not move because of that. Then maybe the career I had taken now, like you said, Beverly, I wouldn't have been in that line now, but I'm very grateful
one
for
thing I
that. So
love
that's
about
an
this topic
experience
is
I would
how
like to share.
universal failure is. Not that we like failure, no, like how universal it is. And how do you think lessons from these different types of failures connect, and what makes each one unique? Toby, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Did you hear the question?
Yeah, boy, repeat it. Repeat it so I can be clear.
I said, how do you said one thing I love about this topic is,
Mm,
how universal this topic is failure.
mm-hmm.
Um so how do you think the lessons from these different scenarios I've talked about, how does it connect and what makes each one unique?
Yeah. So, of course, like you said, it's universal. So the lessons are also universal. Most of the time, the steps you take in correcting it or moving on. So yes, that's it. It's yeah, it's transferable skills, honestly. Same thing you do in
Thank you.
this, yeah.
Thank you. One thing I really appreciate about like two of my guests, Davoni and Wally, is like I met them at the core of my life where I needed support.
Mm.
And for Wally, I think that was the first time I ever moved out sorry moved across the country and lived away from my folks and everything I knew. I moved to a strange place where, you don't know anybody, you can speak the language. it's it's funny because Nigeria has over 200 languages. You can't speak the language, you don't know anybody. And um he didn't treat me like a staff. He treated me like a junior brother. You understand what I mean? So like everything I knew like about business, about handling, because there was this thing that we did about handing out loans and business plans. So we had to write business plans for people. I didn't know anything about that. He was one that taught me that. He was one that took me under his wing. And it was really, really helpful because at that time I needed all the support I could get because I was just like bored and it was during COVID. Although I didn't, it was just like bizarre. But one thing I was grateful for was that he didn't, all of us that worked under him, he didn't take us as staffs. Like, although we know he was our boss, but
Yeah,
because
sorry,
our boss,
can I
there's this
quickly say
conscious that
something?
is our boss, but he didn't treat us that way, and that
Mhm.
that was that was what made me gain like the utmost respect for him. For Davoni, when and the funny thing about Davoni is like I googled it before I came to university, all the way from Nigeria, because like when I was like the brochure they gave to us, like okay, this is Davoni Savage. The okay, well, I don't know. So when we came the first time and she I just saw someone calling me Ayo. How did she know my name? You know, and it was funny because I learned a lot from you. At that time, I wasn't like comfortable speaking publicly because I was the only black person in the class, and it was kind of weird for me because I felt like I was in a strange place among all these white people, and I could not make any single mistake and I had to do better than all of them. I felt like okay, I had to be above the fray, and you gave me that like leeway to be confident in myself, a lot about presentation. I remember when I did something, I think I already saw, and this you didn't need to do this. I already submitted the course. You're supposed to write this summary about something. I've forgotten, but like not like a summary about what you presented on. And I went to do another thing entirely, and I submitted it, and she called me and said, Ayo, this thing you did, it's not going to get you the mark you're looking for because I know that yes, you want to get an A in this. So do it again, do it this way, do it this way, this way. And she didn't need to do that. She just needed to, and I was really, really, really grateful for that, you know. I'm so thankful to all of you. Toby has been my schoolmate since for the part of 6 years, although we've not seen since 2012. But I'm so grateful for the fact that in each specific way, you guys have contributed to my life. You know, from nothing. Apart from my parents, you guys are very good support systems, and I'm really grateful for that. I just wanted to say that. So before, like, this is the second
Yeah.
to the last segment.
Sorry, before you move forward, I wanted to say something quickly. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So, you were talking about support and something popped in my head. In situations where you failed at something, people do something I do not think is the best. They look outwards for support. And it's good when you have that
Mm.
support system available, but I don't think it's always the best choice to look outwards for support immediately. I feel like you can do that later on, or maybe when you figure things out, you cannot try to, bring people on
No,
board.
no, no, yeah. I need these
Support.
people are not artwork people.
No,
That
I'm
one
not.
is not.
No, no, no. I'm not talking about. No, I'm not talking about
No, no,
your group of
no,
people.
yeah,
I'm just saying, like,
obviously,
generally.
obviously.
And when I
These
mean
people like,
outwards, maybe okay, maybe I'm
yeah,
speaking from my own point of view because of my own personality or something like that.
okay,
When something happens, recently I had a bit of an issue, and the first thing I would do, anytime I had anything is going on, the first thing I would do is to try to like be calm first, seclude myself a bit, figure it out, like make sense of the situation first. Because I realized that when I'm trying to speak to people, this person has an opinion, that person has an opinion, this person has an opinion. A thinks I should do it this way, B thinks I should do it that way, C has another opinion. At the end of the day, I get confused and I realize I've built an opinion or a way forward based of what I've heard, not based of what I
mm,
think I really want to do. So what I've tried to do first is seclude myself away from people, think it through, try to make sense of the situation. Because let's be honest, support is great. It's great when you have it, but it's not going to be always
yeah,
there. Yeah, it's not going to be always there. So what do you do when, you've all your life, when something happens, you've relied on people, and then it gets to a point, there's nobody to rely on, and then you don't know how to move forward from it. So,
well, that's a
and
great,
again, I'm saying this in like general terms, in not in perspective
yeah.
for anything. I'm saying this like
No,
general
me,
terms.
I was like in my own terms, like I was just like, these are great people, honestly, because I was just trying to tell my own, like you said, in my own experience of what I've actually
Mhm.
felt, and it was so great to have them in my life at that moment because
Absolutely.
coming all the way from Nigeria, I knew what brought me to the UK, and it was kind of quite difficult for me to also adapt in that kind of environment, especially in
Definitely.
school where like there were not two people that I could relate with that were of my race or color. It is not like
Yes.
outskirts of London that
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of Nigerians there. Like I said, in my class, I was really black Latinos. I was really black person there, and they didn't make me feel inadequate in any way. All my friends, everybody, the staff. First of all the lecturers knew my name, which is so.
All
So
the
I
lecturers,
could
what?
not,
They knew your name.
they knew me. All my lecturers knew me. All my professors knew me. So I could not hide. I could not misbehave in any way. So, and it was good for me to be able to come into the class, mentally prepared that I was going to talk, I was going to speak. They're going to encourage me, and that was a great place for them to encourage group work, teamwork, presentation skills, analytical skills, problem solving skills. That there's a way to solve problems that are different from how you think. Those things were give like this for the first 3 months. You know, they taught us how to go about this that will help us, progress and succeed there, which is what I'm grateful for. I just want to move on to the next segment.
Sorry, let me just clarify something, yeah? Because if any of my students listen to this, they're gonna start thinking, oh, there is an ethical issue there.
No, no,
I
no, no, no.
no, I only called you because it was not the deadline, had not
Yeah,
passed the
yeah, yeah,
deadline, yeah. Because
yeah.
now sometimes I'm just curious. I'm just like, oh, let me see what this person has done, and it just happened. And I looked at his work and I was like, oh, this is not it. And then I called him and said, what the hell are you doing? Listen, you need to change this. And he was grateful. I was like, yeah, that's what you're supposed to be. And
Yeah.
yeah, but because he submitted prior to the deadline, he used to be a very good student. Like I would walk extra miles all the time to support him. But that's the type of support I mean. It's not, it's not like I was there all the
No,
time that he needed. No, he
yeah. Thanks for
Yeah.
clarifying
I
that.
just wanted him to believe himself
Mm-hmm.
and worked on his confidence a little bit. He has always been very confident, but there was time that he would come and say, "I'm not sure," and and he always tried to get the best result, and he did really well. Yeah, just wanted to clarify.
And
Thank
it
you.
worked. I mean, the person I
Yeah,
know
I
in
did.
secondary school, I don't think he would be. I'd probably start a podcast and invite people to speak. So, I mean,
Yeah.
well
You see?
done.
No, he
Yeah.
was a star. Honestly, he was a star. When he came to deliver presentations, he was at the top of it all the time.
That's nice.
Thank you. I really appreciate the praise. So I wanted to move, and this, because I don't want you to take too much of your time. I have 3 questions, but I want to give one person one question, one person one question, one person one question. So I call this segment "Bouncing Back, Building Resilience." So I don't want to take too much of time. So Davoni, no, let me go from Wale. I wanted to know if you can share a strategy or two for analyzing a failure constructively. Figuring out what went wrong. Okay, are you there, Wale? Okay, figuring out what went wrong without beating
Yes,
yourself
I'm
up.
with you.
What kind of strategy can you? I wanted that for my audience.
Okay. So the first strategy I think to employ or that I normally use is the fact that like when Toby said is for you to actually retract back and then to get yourself in line, understand what is happening and why that
Mm,
problem or that failure actually happened. Because if you don't tend to understand the reason for that failure, you might not even know the approach to even go about it. That's one first thing. So what I normally do is I'll try to understand why is this like this. Okay, let me use the example of when you mentioned the whole program
yeah.
that we did back then in Nigeria to do business plan for people. There was a situation and happening that a specific person brought in like I think about 20 to 30 people to register them for the program and do business plan and everything for them. But in the line of him doing that, the person that was in charge of him paying to that person for the services, he only paid for about 8 or 9 people in respect to 30 people that he was supposed to pay for. So by the time the whole thing happened, there was a whole lot of short in
Mm,
having a balanced record of this is the number of people. Then the our boss in the office then took everything up, and definitely I was in charge of I was the program head, so I had to face everything to try to sort everything out. And I discovered everybody was at first panicking, trying to know, no, it's not me, it's not that, it's this person and all that. But I had to just tell everybody, okay, everybody, just forget about the whole issue. Go about your normal activities for the day. When you go about your normal activities for the day, at the end of the day, we would find where the challenge is coming from. In that process, everybody had to calm down first. So in the area of failure, you need to calm down. You don't respond to failure with quick actions. You need to first of all calm down, understand why that thing is, gather yourself together, and then step by step tend to follow the process of why that thing happened. So what I did is even before the end of the day, before even asking everybody where the hiccup is coming, this person was able to understand that no, I remember that when that man came, he said this. Then this other person said, yes, I remember he said this. So at the end of the day, we were all able to trace where the challenge is coming from and then provide a solution to it. Then another thing is you now need to now be very calm and then don't jump to conclusion. I think conclusion is another thing. There are some failures that are actually lesson, but
mm,
if we jump to conclusion to see them as a setback, that's another way. That's why I had a quote one time that you might not have the strength to climb a mountain, but instead you
thank
might be
you.
built to move a mountain. These are two different ways. So some people might believe climbing a mountain and getting to the peak of the mountain
Well,
is the goal I need to set. What if you're not even meant to climb the mountain? You're actually meant to move mountains. So I think that's a strategy
thank you.
I employ or
Davoni,
use in my day
your
life.
question is so when processing disappointment, sorry, processing disappointment can be tough. So, what are some healthy ways you have found to deal with the negative emotions that might come up with failure or you feeling at particular things?
Yeah, I think that I kind of have talked about it while talking about the other topics, and this go back to what Toby said. I would definitely think that the best way to start is accepting, definitely, and dealing with it is absolutely looking back into what could have been done in a different way. The action plan that I used to talk about. Look at your failures, look into what you could have done better, do an evaluation, what was good, what was bad, keep the goods, work on the bads.
Mm.
Yeah, I would say that would be my strategy.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Toby, final question. Self-compassion is always huge in this type of situations, but it is easier said than done. Like we say in Nigeria, it's easier said than done. So, how do you practice self-compassion when you are tempted to spiral into self-blame? Some people just blame themselves continuously, and in that moment of self-blame, they can take drastic actions that might lead to something much more fatal than it is meant to be. So how do you practice self-compassion, I mean, when you are tempted to spiral into self-blame?
Well, if I'm being honest, what I do
Toby,
personally, can you hear me?
yeah.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? Please don't tell me my network is going off at this time. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we can
great.
hear you.
All right. So, I said, if I'm being honest, what I do
Yes, we can
in
hear
situations like
you.
that, the first thing I do is rest. If I'm being honest, I leave everything. When I notice that I'm panicking, I'm spiraling, I leave everything and I sleep. Is it I sleep or I get food? I'm watching a movie. I just make sure I'm not thinking about anything, not just about the issue at hand. I'm not thinking about anything. I
Mm.
probably I'm eating, I'm watching a movie, I'm sleeping after that. I'm just not doing anything about anything for that period. And then after that period, I can now come back to think carefully about it. One thing I always also try to tell myself is to be kind to myself, because it's easy to be when you need criticism, like constructive criticism, when you're giving it to yourself, especially when you've placed yourself and you've placed your goals on such a high pedestal, and then you fail at it, and you feel really bad. You want to blame yourself for everything that's happened, but being kind to yourself, speak nicely to yourself, because if I'm being honest, that's the only way you can get out of it. You've accepted, like we said,
Mm.
accepted that it has happened, but then be kind to yourself. Okay, fine, I did this. Except if, like I said, I think I said during the course of the podcast, that except if you know you did not put your all into it, you know you did not try your best, you know what you did was not your best, or you know that it was just a very silly mistake that could have been easily avoided. At that time you can give yourself some tough love, just to get back up. But when you know you've put your all into it and you still feel that it, be kind to yourself, be nice to yourself, admit, yeah, yes, I made a mistake. But at the same time, I'm human. Do you understand? Like, speak kindly to yourself. It could be in different ways. For some people, it's through words of affirmation that they, repeat back to themselves. For someone like me, I'm being kind to myself by doing what makes me happy. I like listening to music, so at that time I'm blasting the music on the highest volume in my room, and I'm probably dancing, or I'm just doing what makes me happy at that time. Because I know that if I'm in a happier state, I can think clearly about the issue instead of panicking about it. So that's just my own routine of self-compassion. Like, so yeah, rest, eat, sleep, whatever
Thank
it
you.
is that makes you happy.
So first of all, sleep. Abi?
Sleep about sleep on it. When you wake up, you have a
So
clearer head.
the first, the first thing to do is to sleep first before you make any
Sleep,
decisions. I got it. Thank
right?
you so much. That was so right on it. Thank you so much. So I wanted to just this is the final section. I don't want to just hear some funny comeback stories that any of you have. We want to just wrap up this whole thing with some inspiration. You can share a quick story of a time you turned a failure into a surprising success and what made that comeback possible. Let me go first of all. No, and it's not about a story of myself. No. Recently, I've been so intertwined into politics. I don't know why. I just gained this um like interest that I couldn't even know where it came from. And there's this political figure that is controversial, and I loved going into the United States politics, but especially this
Listen.
okay, sorry, these elections that just went by, and this figure, Donald Trump, this controversial figure that that left the political landscape in embarrassment, or let me say, show of disgrace, and came back and blew, you know, it blew a lot of expectations. He That story inspired me in a way that it hasn't inspired me before, because this is someone that half of the country don't like. Dalvin, I was talking about Donald Trump. If
Yeah, I was listening. I had
so,
to go and free my dog. Sorry, he was upset, but I was listening.
yeah, so the comeback story actually you know inspired me, because this was someone that nobody believed in, nobody ever. If you look at the amount of people that said he's never going to be a president of the United States of America, the volume, and it broke all expectations, broke all records this year. He's the only second person ever in the United States history to win non-consecutive times, and that kind of story inspired me, because, and I was like, how could somebody that people wrote off at the end of his first time could come back and gain the support of everybody, or half the country, and the way he won it this time was unquestionable. There was no gimmicks about it. He won it fair and square. It was so glaring that this is a mandate from the people to bring him back to power so that he could solve their problems. And stories like that are things that make it possible that yes, you can go through some things in life, you can go through pain at a time, you can go through disappointment at some point in your life, you can go through setbacks, you can go through, you know, failure. But what you do, the decisions you make in moments like that are what determines what will come out on the other hand. If you decide to cry, fine. But after crying, what next? You can't cry forever. You can't cry. I'm sure you cannot cry for 2 weeks straight. Even if somebody breaks your heart today, you can't cry for 2 weeks. The moment, I think the highest is 24 hours, and you pick yourself back up, move on with your life, make decisions that yes, okay, I made this decision. It was not the best one I could make, and that's why I respect CEOs of companies. I respect people that lead people, because it's not easy to make it's not easy to be in a position of decision making that can affect the lives of so many people, not just yours. And that is why it's very important for we as human beings to build that resilience, to be able to bounce back from unexpected situations. Most people, and I don't want to say this like out of spite, most people that kill themselves, I feel that like the cowards we have, because God didn't put you on this planet for nothing. He gave us a purpose. He gave us um, instruments and tools that we can use to fulfill that purpose and dream. So it is left for us as human beings, it is left for us as individuals to be able to find out what exactly it is I need to do to be able to come out at the better end of my life. And with that, I don't know if anybody wants to add anything, if anybody wants to say anything, or if anybody wants to wrap up with anything, so that we can just close, and that'll be for everybody.
Yes.
Davoni, do you have anything to
Yeah.
add? Oh, Otobi wants to talk.
Yeah, so when
Okay.
you the funny thing was when you sent me the topic for today, I'd just read a slide about Femi Otedola, and it just made sense.
Oh,
Totally. I don't know if anyone knows the story, but it was one of the richest men in Africa years back. He's back on Forbes, but he's not as rich as he was. I mean, he had in 2007, I think it was listed on Forbes list with a net worth of about $1.8 billion as a 2007. And then in 2008, it lost about 1.2 billion. And somehow he was able to make back his wealth. Although he has not gotten to where he used to be, but I mean, he was able to rebrand himself about 2 years after he went into oil. And when he saw that oil was going down again, he dropped oil and then he pivoted again into energy. And when I read that story, I think I've not seen any other inspirational story like that in a while, because for someone, like when you see people like that today, you think, oh, these people haven't failed before. You don't see them as failures. You don't see them as someone that could have failed. But this man lost $1.2 billion, and then in about 10 years after, is back to where he used to be. So that story just tells me that it's okay to fail, but it's not okay to remain a failure. Because he didn't remain a failure. He didn't stay in one place. And that thing taught him a lesson as well. Because when he started into the oil business and he saw that the same thing that made him lose money was going to happen again, he dropped it and moved into another sector before he went through the same mistake twice. So I think what that story just taught me is, like I said, one, it's okay to fail, but it's not okay to remain a failure. Two, don't make the same mistake twice. If you've made the mistake once and now you're building yourself again, don't ensure to have learned from the mistake so you don't fall back to where you started from. Yeah, so yeah, I just wanted to just
Yeah.
bring up his story.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And Darwin, do you want to add anything?
I think what you've said, yeah, is quite good enough. Well done. We've shared that belief as well. I do admire that man. I yeah, it was really, yeah. You've made good notes there on his comeback. Yeah, not much to say.
Thank you. Wale. Oh, good. The network, but no. Wale, are you there? Okay. So wow, what a conversation. Honestly, I want to say a huge thank you to Davone, to Toby, to Wale for sharing. First of all, for coming on.
Hello.
I really want to appreciate you guys, honestly. Even if you have some network issues, you guys, really took our time to call, and I'm so honored that you guys could, um, accept my request to come on. This is an open invitation again because especially Davon. I know Davon is very busy. I know I saw this always for her alone. So for her to be here, it really means a lot to me, and I want to say thank you honestly, and I want to like you're welcome back anytime. Trust
Thank you
me.
very much.
Yeah, and also Toby, I really want to appreciate you. Also, I just gave you this. I just told you 2 weeks ago, and you just said, "Okay, let's do it." Thank you so much, Toby. And
Thank
Wale,
you.
big man. I know that anytime I call you, even if I say it's tomorrow, day, it will come. So I want to appreciate Wale too. And I want to thank you guys for sharing such insightful and hilarious stories about the topic, your experiences, your personal life. I know it's not easy. I want to appreciate you guys. Today we've learned that failure isn't the villain we often make it out to be. It is more like, that quirky, unpredictable teacher who shows up with tough lessons and unexpected gifts. So, from refraining our mindset to laughing through the flops and building resilience with self compassion, we have uncovered how mess ups can lead to growth, connection, even for a few good stories that Davoni talked about. You know, and so here's my challenge to our listeners: think about failure in your life that led to growth. Maybe it was a job that didn't work out for me, a relationship that taught you what you really value about yourself, you know, and things we love to hear about your flops that you turn into wins. Share a story with us on our YouTube page if this relates with you. Mr. Wale, I asked if you wanted to say anything about the ending.
Okay.
If you wanted to share any last minute.
All right. I think one little one I will just share. It's about a friend who actually
Mm.
had a lot of disappointments and some other setback. He started with a group of people to develop a system, but at the long run, the thing it didn't work out. Then family issues and all set in that he lost his job, lost a whole lot of things. But at the long run, he was able to pick himself back up. I don't want to go into much long details, but he was able to pick himself back up. And gratefully, I think this month he will be launching a telemedicine app. That is what working on
Mm.
that to launch that anytime this month, before the end of the month. So, what I wanted to bring out is he worked on that based on personal experience and what happened to him with his wife then with the medical system in Nigeria. And there was a whole lot of challenges during that period, but was able to pick himself back up after a long period of time. So I think
Mm.
one thing is never to give up, accept the failure, and then just keep pushing. And at the long run, things will turn out good.
Mm. Yeah, thank you so much. One thing that he said, never give up. I think there's this I don't know whether Darwin don't understand pigeon. So let me put, I think there's this quote that Bonaboy said. He said like you can't say you tried your best, like, and there's no evidence of the work that you put into it.
Say,
So if
Explain that,
like,
yeah.
like you can't say you tried your best when there's no evidence. So it's
Yeah.
those that quit that doesn't have the evidence. So you went to the other side and came out successfully, you have evidence that you did so.
Mm.
So that's the parting gift to you guys. Thank you so much for coming on. Till
Thank
we
you
see
for
you again next time.
having us.
Please kindly subscribe to our podcast, share, engage. We want to hear your stories also on our comment section. Till we meet again next week. Thank you. Bye.